Great. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. This week, I am thrilled to have my good friends from Time Zone Productions, Ruby, Matt, and Frog. These people, these people are brilliant. They're active historians. They know how to research. They're the best storytellers I've ever heard. They have tours. They act, they do music. I mean, they write, you name it, these three do it. And I'm looking forward to hearing about all the new activities and adventures and exciting things in Salisbury.
Well, there's not actually very many. We've all decided to retire.
Yeah, we've decided.
That's the end of everything. We've no, really joking.
No, we are. No, we're definitely going to keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We've somewhat diversified in the respect that, whereas when you came over to Salisbury, we pretty much stayed in Salisbury, but now we're moving outside to the villages and other areas, and we're discovering all sorts of new things and ghosts and all sorts of things paranormal. And in fact, can I just tell you something that happened to me recently? And I'm doing a book at the moment on cinema.
Okay.
Moving into cinema, and I was given a whole load of scrap albums from the 1980s, and just looking through these scrap albums, and I kept on finding incidents of UFOs, sightings of UFOs, and
Interesting.
but also, and completely unrelated, then I started finding on the same pages incidents of crop circles, but they were unrelated. So in the book I'm doing, Supernatural Salisbury, I wasn't going to, but now I'm thinking about doing a chapter on UFOs and crop circles.
That sounds interesting. I've heard that. I'm sorry?
I just came across it. I wasn't actually looking for it, but we're not just talking about one incident. We're talking about quite a few incidents, and you start thinking there was like a spate of all different people seeing UFOs or things they couldn't explain. We know we've got Salisbury Plain around here,
right?
Lots of army maneuvers, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But coupled up with the crop circles at the same time, which just to me was a bit quite sort of like remarkable.
It'll be interesting to see what you come up with. I think Time Team did something on one of the history shows I watch anyway. Did something with those, and I think they did an interview at I can't remember the name of the pub in Avebury.
Red Lion? No.
Red Rooster? No, I don't remember. It's the only one there.
It's Red Lion. I can't remember, to be honest with you, but no.
Yeah.
It comes to me, I promise.
Yeah, and it's it sounded like there had been a lot going on there, and I guess people have gone to jail for it.
yeah, definitely.
Well, I grew up on a farm in Wiltshire, William, and there were crop circles popping up, and some I've said before, so I can categorically go on the record that I know that some are very much not legit. I know of farmers who would kind of talk about it in the pub, but there are other ones which are so intricate. It kind of got. I mean, you don't need me to tell you, but some of the ones are so intricate and so amazingly complex that they must have thought a lot about it, and you never know. And there's a lot of UFO sightings. Farmers talk about it. My grandmother used to talk about it. Those long, big open spaces, dark skies. It's the UFOs you see in the daytime, I think, are more interesting. The ones you see at night. That's the ones that get me.
It's just interesting. Some of these crop circles, that you can only actually make them out from above, from a helicopter, looking camera down from a distance.
Right.
And it just remarkable if they were to fake that would be, how do they fake that sort of thing? They're too intricate really to fake. So
I think you might have a whole separate book, because I think this can get into a lot of in-depth detail, both from the faked ones to the ones that we can't explain, and including with the UFOs. I mean, it's quite a topic.
There was a guy called Reg Presley, and he was the lead singer with a group called 1960s group called the Trogs.
Oh, I know them.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Well, he was the lead singer and the main songwriter.
Right.
And And another group called Wet 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 released one of his songs, and it was a #1 hit single and made Reg Presley a millionaire virtually overnight. He invested all the money into crop circles, and I interviewed him. He spent millions of pounds on writing books about crop circles and investigations and that sort of thing. And I interviewed him. He was absolutely convinced about these things. In fact, I actually interviewed him to talk about 1960s music for a book we were doing, but I couldn't get anything about the 60s music scene out of him. He was just crop circles. That was it. That's all he wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Is he still alive?
No, he died a few years back now.
Okay. Yeah, I know some of those guys had pretty hard lives, just with their social activities.
He also spent a lot of money on gold. He was getting pure gold and melting it down to a very high temperature and mixing it with different chemicals. And he said that he was developing this thing where you actually drank this stuff. It was in a test tube. You drank the stuff, and it warded off all your illnesses, everything.
Oh yes,
Wow.
I have heard of that sort of thing. It didn't ward his illness off. Though.
Yeah, because he didn't. Yeah, but because he didn't. Yeah, he didn't start taking it. You have to actually take it before the illness. You get the illness. If you can take it before, and Paul Reg had a pretty bad illness before he started taking it, and it didn't help. But yeah, he said to me, "I'll give you one of these test tubes free." I said, "Oh, thank you very much." He said, "But then it's a lot of money to keep up the treatment. But you won't get anything. You won't get a cold. You won't get anything." But it was quite expensive.
You must have had very expensive poo.
I was going to say,
yeah, so he was like a one-off, really. But I mean, he made all that money and he invested all that money in something that he believed in.
Right, and good for him. And you know, it sounds eccentric, but there's often at least grains of truth in some of these things. That even maybe in the gold keeping off illness. Who knows? I haven't heard much of that being successful, but I'm not an epidemiologist.
No. Well, nor was Reg. He was just sort of like a singer, really, but just a fascinating character.
I know these silver's used in homeopathy sometimes. I know that for sure because one of my more interesting colleagues at Stonehenge a few years ago prescribed me some homeopathic pills which contained silver for my knee that was hurting at the time. So
Did it help?
I'm just going to take
I think I only took a couple, and then I went to. Not that I don't know. No, I don't think so. I think I went to painkillers, to be honest, William. I think my nose started swelling. Yeah, it's one of those things. Didn't it used to be available on the NHS homeopathy, or was that one of those things that used to be and isn't, or was going to be at one stage, or they haven't decided? I'm sure it's one of those things that they thought they would, and then anyway. But it's.
I don't see how it can be on the NHS.
No, if it helps anybody, then it's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? Even if it doesn't help everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as it helps and doesn't hurt.
Have you ever seen William,
I'm sorry?
Have you ever seen a UFO?
Yes, I have. And I thought I did once. We were at Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. And there was this big cigar-shaped thing with all kinds of strange lights twinkling and doing their stuff, several layers high. And then it started turning around and I could read the lights, and it was a Goodyear blimp. I was crushed. I was devastated. But a few years ago, many years ago, not just a few, my family, we had some recreation property down by a river close by. And a friend of mine and I, we were in high school, but just to get away, sometimes we'd go out at midnight. And we didn't drink and we weren't doing drugs or anything like that. We just go and have discussions and conversations, talk. And we saw this huge round object with several layers of lights, not too far in the distance. It was fairly low. I'm more suspicious of the little things that could be space junk floating around in the sky that people say are UFOs than these huge things that you can see the actual shape of the ship. It was so big, you felt like you could almost touch it, and it moved funny around, like they do, kind of funny. It wasn't fast, and then it slowly set down behind a hill that wasn't far away. And for about 30 seconds, we thought, oh, well, the road goes directly that way. Let's go see if we can find it. And by the time we got into the car, we decided that we might find it, and that might not be a good idea. So I hit the gas, and we came back to Oregon City. But I don't know what else it could have been. I don't think we had any experimental aircraft like that back in those days. We have a military part of the airport in Portland, but it's not an experimental. It's, keeps the Russians from bombing Alaska. And so where it came from, if it's interdimensional, extraterrestrial, human-made, I don't know. The unidentified part is really strong, but they
It's very
fascinate me.
Yeah, it's very broad, isn't it? Unidentified, it's flying, it's an object. That doesn't mean it's coming from the planet Zarg and it's going to beam you up.
Well, yeah,
but it does mean it's flying and it's an object you can't identify.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
except for there was a guy that I've become quite friendly with. He's since died, called Andy Nickland, and he had this big tithe barn. He used to go to auctions and buy loads of stuff, books and that, and then sell it on. And he had a whole tithe barn. And I went to see him one day. He had some stuff for me, and he said something very strange happened last week. I said, "What was that then, Andy?" He said, "I opened up the doors to the tithe barn." He said, "I was stood there," and he was a bit of a drinker, but this was about 7 o'clock in the morning, so he hadn't had a drink or anything. He said, and as I opened the doors, there was a UFO actually hovering in the yard. And I thought it was a joke. I said to him, "Come on," He said, "No." He said, "This is not a joke." He said, "I actually saw it." He said, "Not only did I see it, it was there, and it was big, and then it was gone." And I tried to I thought it was a joke. I tried to sort of like say, "Look, I'm quite interested in this sort of subject. So if it's a joke, just say." He said, "It's not a joke." He said, "I saw it. It was there, and it was gone in a flash." So when someone says that to you, you can't call them a liar. You can't say, "Well, And I went away. As I drove off, he didn't sort of say, "Oh yeah, it was just a joke." That was it. He was convinced.
Well, and especially if they're not people taking hallucinogenics and such. And in the paranormal work, I mean, that's part of what you have to do. I know of cases where people were complaining about demons coming in and raping granddaughters and whatever. And it was people dropping acid before they had intercourse. And it's, that's no demons involved in a spiritual sense, just some screwed up humans.
He had taken in his life. He was he liked beer. He never took any drugs.
No, and beer's not going to give you hallucinations. But I have friends that have had something similar. People I know 20 miles from here, they're twin brothers. And when they were kids, they were dreaming about strange people coming in, and there were weird lights outside. I can't remember how the story goes exactly, but they could see out there. And then they saw both boys woke up and the mother woke up, and they all saw peeking around corners in the house these strange looking beings. And then they left. And the next day there were big scorch marks out by their barn. It doesn't sound like a mass hallucination or some kind of shared dream, especially leaving physical marks. And that doesn't sound like an experimental military aircraft either. So it's, well, as astronomers say, would be ridiculous to think that there isn't intelligent life someplace out there. Yeah.
Well, we all believe that there is, don't we? That there's life outside of our.
Yeah, it's funny how I'm fairly like we've talked about it before, William. I go along the fairly skeptical line with ghosts and all that sort of stuff quite often. Although I do have a spiritual soul, don't get me wrong. But with the UFO kind of thing, I seem to be more accepting, and I don't know why. It's something to do with me. I did have a thing on the farm when I was growing up with a number of my friends where. Which my grandmother saw as well. It's quite well observed thing that happened with a bright light that zipped across the sky in daylight, and it moved very suddenly and zipped across and disappeared off. And I thought it was a helicopter at first. And I spoke to my friends, and it'd gone obviously when I told them. And then about 3 minutes later, while we're all stood there, it's back when I still smoked cigarettes, and we're all having that sitting there having rollies. Well, there's something up there. Over the other side of the hill, zip, this little light appeared again, and it zipped off to the distance. And it was reported on South Today, which was our local news at the time. I think it's still something similar. And it was around about, I'd say it was around about 1989, maybe. No,
Okay.
it's not. I think maybe 1992, I'd say, around about that sort of era, because I was just leaving secondary school, and we were all there on our motorbikes. We all saw it. One of the people who saw it came over to visit me today. And I'm really annoyed I didn't mention it to him now, because it would have given me a bit of a more solid wicket. But I don't like talking about it, because the inherent thing about something like that is, the moment you start talking about it, I almost feel like it's like, okay, you see aliens, do you? and it kind of knocks your position off, doesn't it?
Well, my dad swears he saw a UFO
Cool.
from a bus, and that was reported in the paper, and that all the people on the bus saw it too. So that must have been 1950s
How
or
did
whatever.
it manifest itself?
I don't know. I think they saw something silver that turned in the sky, and he said the people started pointing at it from this bus. It was reported in the local paper.
Oh,
Over in the States, do you have that organisation called the Men in Black?
That's a film, isn't it?
Well,
It's a film, but it might be an organization too. I don't know.
Well, in this country, there's supposedly a group of people that they dress all in black suits with sunglasses.
It's a film.
But I haven't seen the film.
Smolder of truth in it,
but they investigate people that say they've seen UFOs.
Right. Well, we call the Men in Black those that show up when you've said the wrong thing to the wrong person, or the wrong thing's been heard on the cell phone, or talking about a UFO or something, as a branch of the government spy network. And
sorry.
I know there's something. I'm sure there's something like that around. I mean,
I 100%. There is
sinister,
absolutely
sinister sort of people.
Well, I had a lecturer at college who had the amazingly comical name Roger Moore. He was squadron leader Roger Moore, and he had a brilliant. He was ex-RAF, and he had a proper RAF moustache that you'd imagined, an RAF sort of, and he had his hair like that and all that sort of stuff. But he used to fly. He was a squadron leader of Vulcan bombers, which were, for a long time, actually Brits look back on Vulcan bombers with a bit of a weird obsession, but they were nuclear bombers designed to protect us. A beautiful looking plane in the shape of the V, very, very graceful, designed to do the ultimate destruction. However, but he used to be part of this, and he said he was overtaken. I'm not saying he was batty, he was eccentric, but he told us that he was overtaken, or a squadron report to being overtaken by objects that were traveling at 20,000 miles an hour plus.
Yeah.
And then when he landed, he was met by some gentlemen in black suits who told him he didn't see it, he shouldn't talk about it for at least 20 years, and even then he shouldn't really tell too many people. And it was like, and it might have just been a teacher trying to get us our attention, because it did get mine, and I'm still telling the story. But at the same time, it did make me think, and that's way before Will Smith was walking around with Tommy Lee Jones with black goggles on. That was way before that film came out.
Right. Well, and I've heard of stories like that from different people, including one of my friends, and he lives in Darwin, in Lancashire, Leicestershire, I think it is. His good buddy, they saw the activity going on, and called it in, and it turns out this guy was met by Men in Black too, and there's cover up that happens, and I believe there's something. I just don't know what it is, but I've seen it, so it's easy. You saw it when you were a kid, so you know there's something. If I see a little green man, I'll believe that it's a little green man flying it, but I'm open to the possibility.
Ruby's. I really want Ruby to tell you some bits and pieces, but the one thing I want to say very briefly is the security guards who gave me the footage of the UFOs at Stonehenge.
Yeah,
I think we've all spoken individually at some point about this, and they're
Right.
good friends of mine. But they have agreed now for the footage to be properly released. It's taken a lot because I spoke about this before, but I wasn't quite sure. But the reason and the footage is that they're worried that they're going to get in trouble. They're worried, and we are very close to a military area, aren't we?
we are.
So
Yes.
the last thing we want to do is end up in Clinky for revealing a state secret,
Right.
the best, most incredible thing that Britain's ever made, and where they're going, oh look, it's a UFO. But I don't know what we've got the footage, and I'm going to show these guys. Have I shown you properly before?
Oh,
We've seen this footage, and I've never.
I
seen
haven't.
anything like
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I can at the moment. It's literally I've only been able to go. You can watch it on this television, and that's it. I can't let you have a copy. I can't send it to you. I've got to because it's really super careful.
You can't put it on your laptop and turn it to the screen.
I don't think I could. I don't think it's the right time to do that.
Not for a public show. Maybe offline sometime if you feel comfortable. But
it's just making sure that my friends who have agreed now, that because what do you do when you got something like that?
You don't want to get them in trouble, do you?
Yeah,
no.
Very last.
It's something that I've never seen before.
It's completely inexplicable, really. Yeah.
It's a bit weird.
It's completely, it's really very strange.
It could be somebody, you think it's somebody with a jetpack, but then it turns and it's not us at all. And you think, well, what
changes
is it
shape,
then?
doesn't it?
That's it, changes shape. You think, well, what is it then? And it's really close up. And I mean, it's obviously not fake. Somebody's not made that film. That film's obviously a film that's filmed live on a mobile phone. So it just, what is it?
Quite a few things happen actually around this area, haven't they? Around
absolutely.
Where Matt lives here in Woodford and Lake. Yeah.
I wonder if that has anything to do with, and I don't mean the aliens made Stonehenge, but I wonder if there's an energy there that brought in people to make it such a ritual site in so many ways, and that energy is attracting something to the area.
Well, the two places that I felt really almost like I'm being pulled towards them. One of them was Stonehenge. The other one was Glastonbury. A place called Glastonbury with the Arthur legends and
walking up the Tor.
But every time I drive towards Glastonbury, it's almost like a magnetic force pulling me towards it. It really is a strange place.
Stonehenge, I feel that certainly.
It's like a magical sort of feeling to it. You can go to Stonehenge loads of times, and people say, "Oh, it's just a pile of old rocks and all the rest of it." But there's something there.
That's a great face, Matt. But yes, there is something there.
There's just something. Every time you go there. I mean, you go there all the time. But there's just something about it, inexplicable perhaps, but I don't know what it is. It's just like a feeling. Do you get that? Like a feeling?
I still get it. Yeah. I've got a good friend, our friend, Tim Roby, who's recently retired from Stonehenge. One of the last sort of days we were working together, he's going
to be on my program next.
We loved him. Tim Roby we loved him. He's actually I call him anyway, and so that my colleagues at Stonehenge, we call him Roby One Kenobi. That's how I esteem he is held. He's a fantastic chap. But so Roby One said to me, "Look, Matt, just come to this point here and just stand there and tell me how you feel." And it was like this position in the monument that he was passing to me, and he was passed to him by another one of our colleagues, Carol, and they talked about this certain sweet spot in the monument, and it's just a random point in the field near Stonehenge, and you just stand there.
Oh, Carol, yeah,
Carol would make another amazing guest.
She taught me how to pendulum.
Carol Trees is again.
Oh, fantastic!
She's a very special lady who's worked in and around Stonehenge for years, and I have the utmost respect. But yeah, so Tim said to stand at this point and tell me how you feel, and it was hard to not admit that there was some kind of like, well, at the very least, this is a very, very, very pleasant place to stand.
Mm.
And
Yes.
it's just, and it's just much more, I don't know, what they call chi, or there's something zen. I don't know what you call it, but it was just like,
Right.
wow, this is
Tranquility.
yeah, just and then
Right.
you can take a couple of steps to the left, and it's still a beautiful place to be. But that place was better.
Who
I don't know how you
is
put it.
that person who sits with the staff in the
Oh, I haven't seen her for a
museum?
long time. Siobhan.
Siobhan.
Was the shaman at Stonehenge, and
Okay.
when I first started working at Stonehenge, Siobhan, very, very spiritual lady, and very powerful. It's strange when you first start working there, and I had come from sort of working in pubs. I have a great huge history and other bits and pieces, but I'd always been a history nerd, and I get this dream job at working at Stonehenge. Oh, this is amazing! I'm doing this, and then there's a lady in the corner with these big antlers, and you
I've
do
seen
feel
her.
like, do you feel like you're definitely like hi?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she really helped me unlock and be more comfortable with expressing that side of myself.
But she did frighten another member of staff.
Oh, some people were very much
frightened.
Well,
by
people
her.
don't. Not everyone's happy to go and open themselves like that. And Siobhan, and if she, again, another very interesting person, would hand you a staff with a goat's head on.
Yeah, I met her.
You've done it. I remember you doing it.
Fascinating character. Yeah.
And then she'd ask you to close your eyes and concentrate on the staff, and then you'd rotate the staff in certain directions, and you'd express how you're feeling. And it was at the very least, it was a very good way of getting people to try and get in touch with a side that they wouldn't be getting in touch with if they were normally walking through a museum looking at flints and thinking about whether they're going to get a cup of tea or go straight up to the stones.
Right.
But yeah, she eventually didn't start. She stopped hanging around the stones so much, and she's now based more Glastonbury way. But she's still considered one of our shamans from Stonehenge.
Okay.
Personally, if it's possible to play my favourites, she was one of my favourite people I've met there on that side at the monument and around that area.
Yeah, I always used to talk
Very
to her
special.
too.
And Carol has a good relationship with her as well.
Ruby's got a lot of books down here.
Ruby's got a lot of very, very interesting books.
Okay.
And she's good, and we really want her to tell you some cool stuff because
I can't wait.
So the Lake Down tour and all that sort of stuff. Been really into the history of Lake, and as Frog pointed out, where Time Zone Production Studios today is in Woodford. And I've been working on this tour, and there's lots of interesting bits and pieces, but by far the most enigmatic, the most quirky people we've got going on in the landscape is this group of people that Ruby's going to tell you about, who are very famous and very influential and amazing. And I'm going to move a long one to allow you to do it. Okay.
Just before she starts, just to say that remarkably, all our individual research interlinks.
Well,
Why am I not surprised?
It's not remarkable. It's not remarkable. It's the same very small area around.
I've never heard of
Salisbury,
Oliver Lodge, and you didn't have any idea that they were mixed up with the people you're about to talk to. But
Right.
so these people sort of are the individual people that we've each researched, not knowing they had connections to the other people, and we found that out. Yeah.
You form such a good unit. I mean, as friends and a team, but it just makes sense to me that you'd be doing different cogs of the same wheel, without knowing it.
I think basically we're lucky researchers, lucky in the respect that we do the work. We're serious researchers, but we always seem to find stuff that connects us people. It's really quite strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the family that Matt was telling you about were the Tennant family, and they were a group of a family of aristocrats that lived at Wilsford-cum-Lake in the house Wilsford Manor. And so I'm going to just take some of these books that I've got here. I haven't read them all because I'm doing the research at the moment. So I'm just going to tell you about each book, and that will sort of let you in on the story.
Okay.
So the Tennant family, one of their neighbours and big friends was Sir Oliver Lodge. So that's one book I've got. So,
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I'm sure you would, because Sir Oliver Lodge was a big friend of Pamela Tennant, Lady Glenconnor, and a neighbour. He lived in Normanton Manor, and so here's a book. Here's a book that I've got here.
Okay.
So what does it say? Psychical researcher and scientist. So Sir Oliver Lodge actually really radio. Now you think of Marconi, but Marconi actually bought some patents from Lodge, because Lodge had done the first experiments about electromagnetic waves, but he didn't. He'd managed to do a communication, a telegraph without wires, but he didn't quite understand how. For him, he thought that everything between us was ether. That's what he said, ether, and that the waves sort of passed over the ether. And he made the relationship between radio waves and telepathy, because he thought that you could do a radio, if you could radio a message from one place to the other, then that would explain how people could send a message as well from one place to the other. And so he did a lot of experiments on with telepathy, trying to send messages, interviewing people with messages. So
fascinating.
This book is not by Sir Oliver Lodge. It is by Mr. Bagali, and it's called Telepathy, Genuine and Fraudulent. But it's got the preface by Sir Oliver Lodge, and it is talking about Oliver Lodge's experiment. So it makes a big difference between fraudulent telepathic communications, because a lot of magicians were, you could be blindfolded and pretend to read someone's mind telepathically, but somebody could be talking to you about something completely different, but it's encoded. Basically,
Right.
that's how they did it. So every word they might say something sounded very similar, but they were sending a messages in code. Or blindfolded person, you could see things. So he made a big difference between that and genuine telepathy. And I don't know if I've talked about it before to you, but I've had two real telepathic things happen to me which fall into his genuine telepathy things. Well, the first one was I worked in a hotel a very long time ago in the 1980s. I married cover your ears.
I already know about this.
Cover your ears. I was married to someone else then who was French, and he was a chef. And we were in a hotel, and I woke up in the middle of the night sweating, and I said to him, I saw this old man in the hotel who was actually the Préfet de Lyon, so he's the highest policeman in Lyon, and I said I saw he died. He's a person I didn't even speak to him. I don't think I had no connection to him at all. But anyway, I had this vivid dream, and we went down in the morning to breakfast, and my husband told the other people there and said, Ruby saw, him dead, and I was, I said, oh, stupid. Anyway, just at that moment, the boss of the hotel came over and she said that this old man was ill. And so all the staff looked at me, you know, do. And I said, no, he's not dead. You know, he's not dead. He's ill. And so she went away again, and she turned around and just walked back and said, I've just heard he's not ill, he's dead. So why I dreamt that man died, I have no connection to him, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, freaky. And the second one was in the same year, and I haven't had it any other time. It's in the same year. I think it might have a relationship with me learning a foreign language, though. Is that I with the same husband, I was on not one of the many. With the same husband, I was on a small island, and we were just finishing the season, the tourist season. So I was supposed to leave and take the boat over to the continent. And I dreamt that night that I saw me standing on the quay with the suitcases at my feet and the boat going off in the distance, and missed the boat. So, you know, told everyone in the hotel. My husband was even making a joke and saying, like, oh, you know, she's had these true dreams before. So so we left early, we got a lift there, we were there waiting for the boat in time, and the boat was cancelled. And so I didn't see the boat sailing off in the distance, but I looked down, and there, just like in the dream, was my suitcases at my feet. So that's what Oliver Lodge has got, had a lot of examples of that sort of thing, which he said was genuine, I don't know, is it telepathy, or I don't know, genuine instances of some sort of radio communication, some sort of communication.
Sorry, Ruby. Does it have like a way of? Does it have like a series of tests that they have to?
Yeah, that's another book.
Okay, sorry.
Because
that's
with
really
the telepathy things, it's just simply these are genuine examples, and here's the debunking.
Oh, how fascinating!
But Oliver Lodge, what he had in common with Pamela Tennant, we'll talk about afterwards. Both of them lost sons in the First World War. In fact, there's a load of people like that. There was a whole clique of them. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was one of their friends. I know where you've heard of Oliver Lodge. He was one of the original members of the Ghost Club.
Okay.
There you go. That's how we met, isn't it, with the Ghost Club?
And I was wondering if he was part of the Society for Psychical Research as well.
Yeah. He
along
was
with Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah. And
Oliver Lodge and Conan Doyle were best friends.
Fantastic.
And so was Pamela Tennant. And what they all had in common is they lost sons in the First World War who they wanted to communicate with. And they were all very religious people. You know, it's not incompatible. So they all believed in God. They all believed in very formal religion, not anything new wave or anything.
Okay.
Oliver Lodge's son was called Raymond, and he wrote this book, Raymond, Life and Death. And because of his experiments with telepathy, he thought that you could also, maybe he believed that you could contact somebody on the other side. So he had a spirit guide called Mrs. Leonard, and she had a control who was called Feeder, a Hindu woman, and they got in touch with Raymond. And Oliver Lodge fell out with society, not only because of his radio experiments, which I think that that's a different story, but also because what Raymond said wasn't very religious. Raymond said that on the other side, when all the soldiers arrived, it was just like Earth, but much more beautiful, but had loads of trees and plants. And the first things the soldiers were given when they got to the other side was a glass of good malt whiskey and a cigar. Now,
so that proves the rule.
That's it. Now,
Sounds good to me.
Well, the church didn't like that at all, because obviously that they were preaching abstinence and whatever. But Oliver Lodge said quite logically that the soldiers weren't saints. Soldiers in the trenches, they were just like ordinary blokes.
Right.
And they weren't when they were killed. They didn't go to the other side and suddenly become angels. They were the same people, and they arrived on the other side with all their faults, and they wanted reassurance. And so, of course, they would like. They just had the shock of being killed horribly. So if they were smokers and drinkers, they would have liked a glass of something and a cigarette. So I don't know if it was St. Peter or God that greeted them, but obviously because it was paradise, they didn't get a glass of cheap beer and a roll up. They got a good malt and a cigar. But this, as I said, this really sort of did not make Sir Oliver Lodge very popular. But I mean, one of his biographers did say he was such a famous scientist with such a good reputation that he had so much to lose, because he was ridiculed by a lot of people.
Right.
He was ready to lay his reputation on the line because he truly believed, and he really did believe that he was in contact with Raymond. And I think that one thing you've got to say about all these people, and I'll move on to Pamela in a minute, is that it's such a tragedy. They're losing their sons. And one thing I didn't realise was they sent back all the belongings. So Oliver Lodge got all his belongings soaked in his blood and virtually cut. Yes, because they would gather up from the dead body, if they could, everything that they could get, put it in a big bag and post it back. And you can imagine the reassurance that it gave to be in contact with their child. So anyway, I haven't read all the messages from Raymond, but I am very much looking forward to reading that.
And from what you've said, I think it's authentic. I think he was connected.
Ah, yes.
Because it fits very much my own experience reading for clients.
Yeah. I don't think that we could. I don't think that we can poo-poo it. I mean, I don't really believe in Madame Leonard at all, I have to say. But I think there's a lot of people that took advantage of people like Oliver Lodge and Pamela. But that he felt a connection, I'm really willing to say, because I'm a mother myself, and I can imagine that he did. So
Right.
Pamela. Well, the Tennant family. So to talk about the Tennant family, who had Wilsford Manor around here. They also had Lake House, which Matt knows a lot more about than me. But I'm interested in the family, and they didn't live in Lake House really. They owned it at one point. Pamela, let me see. I must have a picture. She was one of those aristocrats, the Wyndham family, who was so powerful, so dominant, so eccentric that to be any one of her children was probably a curse, is the answer. If I should have a picture here of her. Yeah, here she is with all the children. Can you see?
Wow.
She's in the centre.
So
she was a writer, poetess. She was one of the souls. So the Souls in the late 19th century, they were a group of about 50 aristocrats who were like new romantics. You know, they were called the Souls because they were all going around writing poetry. And Oscar Wilde was one of them. So he would dress like little Lord Fauntleroy. You know, Pamela's cousin was Lord Alfred Douglas, Bosie Douglas. That was her cousin. And they were related to a lot of the aristocracy. And Pamela's eldest son, then Bimbo, because they've all got nicknames. You know, there's the Baron, the Baron, the Baronet, the Bart. You know, the ancestor. Bimbo, the eldest son. It's you know, you've seen probably quite a lot of these films about the British aristocracy. And Bimbo was actually killed as well in the First World War. So that's why Pamela and Oliver Lodge, who were neighbours, but they've been very good friends for a very long time, were completely into trying to contact their children. So Pamela and Pamela Glenn Connor and Oliver Lodge wrote a book together here.
Okay.
And that one is The Earthen Vessel, a volume dealing with spirit communication received in the form of book tests. So they were trying to contact their children. It's still all through Mrs. Leonard, I can. And so so book tests. You can probably tell me more about book tests, William.
I'm not sure what that. I don't know what that title it means.
I think that they're going through books and finding passages which all connect to make sentences, which are sending them messages.
Oh, okay.
But I have not read all the book. It's one that I'm definitely very, very interested to read. It is that's what it is. In fact, they're opening books. They're finding messages all through the books, because the spirits have to communicate. They can't speak, can they? And instead of writing, it's that you can.
A bit like some songwriters do, where they cut up lots of different words and sentences, and they jumble them all up, and then they pull them out, and they make the song lyrics out of. Oh, that's what Dave Bowie used to do, for instance.
But Arthur Conan Doyle's wife, second wife, was a spirit writer. So it's sort of like blank mind and seances, like the pen.
Yeah.
And that's how Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle fell out, because she spirit wrote a letter that was from his mum to him, and it was in English instead of Hungarian or something like that. I forget, I haven't researched that for a while, but that's really interesting, really.
But Pamela, though, very, very into psychical research as well. So this is a book that she'd written much earlier called Village Notes, and that's about the villages here, really. And one of the things she says in it, I can here, is a belief in the power of the evil eye still lingers among village folk. I've met with it in the cottage of a woman who'd had many stories to tell of its malefic mystery.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she, by her own account, had experience of its influence. Years ago, her brother had been engaged to be married. The mother of the girl to whom he was engaged was one who could cast spells on folk. His family persuaded him to break the promise, and strange things happened. Their horses were steaming in the stable in the early morning with their tails tied up. A cow was found fixed to the ground with her horns stuck in the mud, and gradually the small farm sunk under complications. The brother, who'd been engaged to be married, and her only sister, a handsome girl, died. And I myself, Mrs. Stone would say, I myself have led ever after an unhappy life without complaint. So Pamela was really interested in collecting all these sorts of stories from the local villagers or all
a lot
around
of this
here.
evil eye because my grandfather was the blacksmith here at this where we are now, this sort of like village, Woodford, and the power of metal and horseshoes bring a good luck, and that's why they used to cover all the horses with these amulets to deflect, because they said that when the sun shone, because horses were particularly susceptible to the evil eye of the witch, so they would cover all the reins with amulets all around the horses.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so the sun would shine on and it would deflect the evil eye of the witch. So you see all these horse brasses in local public houses, but originally they were put all around the horse to deflect the evil eye.
I had no idea.
No, it's funny how all our research, sorry, let me get into the camera, all our research joins up, because one of my favourite books in the past was a book called Reincarnation, and it was by a guy, I think, called Ian Stevens. I read that book so much that it fell apart. And no, it's true. It's a book that has so many really interesting things in it, and it fell apart. And I think it's out of print because I tried to buy it again, but most of it debunks reincarnation. Most of it gives explanations for people's the way that they see these things. But like a lot of these things, at the end, it's got some things which the author could not find an explanation for. One of them were a set of drawings that a child did when they were about 2 or 3. They started drawing a horse, a man on a horse, and that was so sophisticated, the drawing. But what was interesting and what made me think of it is around the saddle, it had faces, it had things coming down, it had faces sort of coming off it. And the drawings were really deep, they were like a really good adult's drawings. But as that child got older, the child lost all of that, and they never remembered even why they'd ever done it. And the drawing's so weird with these faces off it. But now I suddenly think, no, they were they were amulets, they were horse brasses with the evil eye. But even the author that wrote that book didn't know why those things were, what those things were, and now we know.
Yeah, but the
Isn't
horse.
that shivery?
That is a bit shivery.
That's shivery.
But the horse, my grandparents living in this village here were so superstitious. Once a year, the gypsies used to come to this village and sell pegs and that sort of thing. My grandmother would always buy pegs through fear of them putting a curse on her.
Right.
So everybody around here was completely superstitious. But on the one hand, my grandmother was super superstitious, but my grandfather, because he was a blacksmith and chimney sweep, he had a certain lot of protection. He had to protect people because he was working with fire and steel on all those things. And interestingly, he used to make his own horseshoes, and he used to take me when I was a child to his forge, and I'd watch him hammer this metal.
Wow.
Going the rest of it, and to a kid, you're just fascinating. But it's interesting that even Lord Nelson was superstitious, and he nailed a horseshoe to the mast of the HMS Victory before we went into the Battle of Trafalgar, because he was he was super. Yeah, okay. He won the battle, but he got shot.
Reg Presley.
He didn't come out a bit too well, but
right.
At least.
But England did.
Sorry?
But England came out of it well.
We came out all right.
Yeah.
We did the thing about Nelson, didn't we? He didn't really say, but he was. How did he? The bit what was left of?
What was left of him? Yeah, because Nelson, he'd lost all his teeth, one arm, an eye, his hair.
Yeah, and wasn't it Emma Hamilton? They embraced on the beach and she flattened him.
I think that
might be made up.
That sounds like my. But she was a large, buxom lady.
Yeah, sorry.
And he must have been.
But the strange thing about it was, in the Navy, he was known as Lucky.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you're lucky until you're not, aren't you?
Yeah, and he's virtually lost an arm, eye, hair, teeth. He's known as Lucky.
Anyway, can I just finish with a little bit about the Tennants? A little bit.
Oh, please do keep going. I'm fascinated.
Okay, so the Pamela, this overpowering lady. She's written loads of books about her children, and her son Stephen. There's a picture in this book. She decided. Sorry, look. There's Stephen Tennant, one of the most famous of the bright young things. I'll tell you about them later if you want.
Okay.
But Stephen Tennant was very famous as a socialite in the 1920s, and his mother had dressed him as a girl until he was about age 10, and there's pictures of him there. She just decided she'd like a girl, and she already had one big girl, but then she'd had 3 boys, so she decided Stephen should be a girl, and she dressed him as a girl. And she lived in a ménage à trois.
Is that like a cul-de-sac?
No, it isn't. She lived with her husband and another man and you know, they all agreed. I mean, they all got on fabulously. And when her husband died, she married the other man, who was a member of the government, Lord Grey. And at least half her children were probably fathered by Lord Grey. But she was very religious, you know. Well, they just made up their own. They made up their own rules, you know.
Right.
And she used to like to ride around the countryside, right around these roads around
It's
here.
bizarre. This is all happening right where we are now.
In a wooden gypsy caravan, playing the guitar.
Cool.
But one of her big friends was Augustus John, the painter, and he did the same thing. He had a wooden gypsy caravan, and so did her son David. David, and
Not Doctor Who.
No. But David Tennant as well had a wooden gypsy caravan, and he describes the metal fittings made by the local blacksmith, who, with the dates, must have been his granddad. Yes,
That's amazing.
Yes, because it's such a very small area. But when Pamela died, David and his wife Hermione, who was an actress, were in London, and they came rushing back to Lake, and Hermione was very shocked because she'd never seen a dead body before. So Pamela had dropped dead of a heart attack, aged only about 57 in 1928. They saw her body laid out. Hermione and David went to bed, and during the night, Hermione saw Pamela's ghost walk into the bedroom, lean over David and kiss David goodbye. And after that, she never wanted to live in the house because she felt Pamela was still there. So David inherited the house. His elder brother inherited Glen, the baronetcy seat in Scotland. And but Hermione didn't want it, so the trustee sold it to Stephen, the younger brother. But Stephen, who lived alone in Wilsford, Wilsford cum Lake, all his life, lived like Miss Havisham. He only died in about 1987. He died. And he left all the rooms just as they were in the 1920s, when they were filled with the beautiful young people. And it's the same rugs, the same paintings, everything. It's all shut up and just cobwebby and all dim lighting. His bedroom, he would lie on his bed, and he had like rainbow fishnets, shells, and his drawings, because he wrote poetry, wrote books, he wrote things all strewn around him. His bedroom just looked like a junkyard. There's an actual film of the painter David Hockney coming to visit him. I think it's on YouTube. But people, Matt was just saying he met somebody who remembered Stephen, and so have I.
Yeah.
He was, because it's very close. It's very close to our time. But somebody in that actually went to stay in the house when Stephen was there said it was so spooky that during the night they wanted to go to the loo. They didn't dare. They wouldn't get out of bed. They could hear footsteps walking around everything, and there was nobody there. Stephen, I think he was in Salisbury Infirmary at the time, and there was one housekeeper, and they said like the whole house felt inhabited by all these people. For me, I just wish they'd kept it as a museum. I think it's so tragic that it was preserved like this from the 1920s right up until 1987, and I've seen photos of it inside now. It's a lodge that they rent to fishermen, and it just looks like a corporate decor, and yet it was so, pink and zebra skin and gold, and it was silver ceilings, and it
must have been amazing.
Yeah,
what year was it so roughly, Bruce?
Well, Stephen died in 1987, so it must have been sold following that.
That's interesting because but we did some filming in Lake the other day, and I got chatting to a chap who was in this big 4x4 who was like, "What are you guys doing?" And he was from I think it was the Association of Piscatarians, and they looked after the rivers that go through Lake, and they've been looking after them since 1970, and that's a very exclusive group of people who have access to the rivers that surround where we are. It's one of my little bugbears, to be honest, but that's the way it is in this country. But so he was saying, so perhaps that lodge is something to do with those guys. I don't know. I'll look into it and find out a bit more. But it is tragic. But yeah, I was talking to a chap called Chris who lives in the village. He lives in Middle Woodford here, and he went to the Free Festival, so he's been very interesting for me. Anyway, he's become quite a good friend, and he told me as a kid he would deliver the village newsletter to Stephen Tennant's house at Wilsford Manor, and then occasionally would be invited in, and it would be a dusty sort of, like you said, like a museum, and these incredible things led about, and he was considered kind of a batty old man.
Wait, what? He was?
And that's kind of, and if you're a young kid and you go, "Can you go deliver it to the big scary house?" Like, yeah, don't worry. It's the most incredible property. I've never had the pleasure of being inside, but I've been doing research and stuff for the church next to it. Yeah. Because there's some very interesting people buried there, and you just look across it. There's vast.
And David and Hermione are there.
Exactly. Yes.
And Oliver Lodge.
There's rumoured to be a witch buried there as well. I was told by, I think it was even Siobhan who told me that there was a witch buried in there, and that's one of the first reasons. It's way before I moved here. I started looking into that church because it is quite. It's got a real vibe. Again, we're back to that thing. It's got that circular thing. Is that got that vibe to it?
Right.
Definitely.
Oliver Lodge and a lot of these people that we've really been talking about, not the Tenants, but Oliver Lodge and the Tenants actually, because of the ghost, are in the Supernatural Salisbury book I'm doing. So it's all documented in there.
Oh, great.
In fact, how this all came about was that there was a girl about 8 miles away from where we are here in Woodford. This was in the 1920s, she went missing. And Matt actually found the original paper that this came from, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I sent it to you, didn't I?
Yeah, gave it to me, and I thought it was quite interesting. So I started researching it and found out that it actually involved Oliver Lodge, because Oliver Lodge suggested that a spiritualist go and see the girl's mother and have a spiritualist sort of like a meeting with her, where she could hold the missing girl's hat and try and find, like get a psychic feeling on whether the girl was still alive or dead. But it was all on the recommendation of Sir Oliver Lodge. It transpired that the girl, the medium said she's still alive, and she's met a man, and they've gone to the seaside, but she'll be back. But actually, she was already dead. She'd fallen into the river, and she floated down the river, just really very close to where Sir Oliver Lodge actually lived. Yeah. So
wow.
Actually, all the way down the river, virtually, and she was found by the waterman just down the road from here, very close to Sir Oliver Lodge. So through that, so then I started researching Sir Oliver Lodge, and then Ruby found out more about Oliver Lodge because he was mixed up with the Tennant family.
Yeah.
So it went from Matt to me, from me to Ruby. That's what I mean about.
And now it's going full circle because
Yeah.
I'm using.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
pieces of this in the tour as
we'll
well.
have a collective.
It's
We'll have
really
a collective
strange. It's
story,
really
won't
strange
we?
how it happened, but I mean,
Brilliant.
the interesting thing about all this was this girl. Her name was Elsie Ford. This was in 1920. She went missing. Her body was eventually found. Forward wind to 1961, I think it was. From the same village, another young girl went missing from the same road, running a errand for a mother. They went to the same fish shop to buy fish for their tea, and they were both. And the second girl in the 60s, she was murdered, but it was the same road. It
Wow.
was the same road. It's really bizarre, you know.
You do get coincidences like that.
Big coincidence, yeah. And it was almost like a flashback to the 1920s because they searched the same areas. They searched. They thought she'd fallen in the river, so they searched all the river banks, and it's a virtual carbon copy of the search that happened in the 20s. It's just absolutely amazing. But there was a theory, there's superstition in Amesbury amongst all the villagers that if you floated a loaf of bread, because this was in your report, if you floated a loaf of bread that contained mercury, it would actually hover above the body in the river. And they tried this out. Yeah, they actually did this. It didn't work. But I've since found another instance of a farm labourer in another village in Wiltshire who fallen into the river and they couldn't find his body, so they floated. So
they use mercury.
Yes,
This is so weird.
So this was like a tradition in this part of the world about floating bread with mercury down the river, and it would hover above the body of a.
The waterman was what in the article I said before. The waterman was worried about the mercury damaging the fish.
Yeah,
right.
So
it would.
I mean, be careful.
It would have poisoned the cows as well, drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I found out that there was a turbine in Lake as well. That perhaps we were thinking that maybe this person got caught in this turbine, which was used to provide electricity down there as well.
Well, they actually stopped them putting the mercury into the loaf directly. They made them put the mercury into a glass tube.
Yeah.
With
Okay.
a screw cap. Then they plunged that into the loaf of bread, floated it down the river, but it didn't work. You know, it was just an old wives' tale, as they say. But
Right.
you know, they firmly believe that.
Knock it till you tried it, sir.
But all these superstitions,
That's what you would say.
all these superstitions around here, you know, they firmly believe these things were cures. You know.
Yeah. Well, and people, even if they don't believe them, they still do them in so many places.
Yeah.
It becomes part of the daily routine in a way. It's fascinating. I love it.
There was this potion, and you wouldn't believe what this doctor, and we're talking a long time ago, Salisbury Cathedral Close, what he suggested of an ailment. He suggested that it involved mice that were burnt alive, and then the ash from the mouse was ground down with herbs and all the rest of it, and the person with the infliction had to eat this.
Yeah.
Had to actually eat this, and it was just like the powder from the ash of a burnt mouse. I think the mouse had to be burnt alive as well, and it was all mixed. Yeah, and it was all mixed together with sort of seeds and herbs and all the rest of it. Just take that and you'll be cured, and they did.
Yeah. We did quite a lot of madcap cures. A few years ago, we did a tour called Rogues, Cons, and Vagabonds, didn't we?
Yes,
and we touched on quackery quite a lot, and then we've also done when we talked about Bishop Seth Ward when we were doing the Cathedral Close tour. He was another one who had lots of take the fat of a duck, and you know what I mean, and rub it in your eyes and all this sort of stuff, you know, and you'll be fine in the morning. Dr. Turberville, Dr. Turberville, who's he treated Samuel Pepys when Samuel Pepys was desperate for treatment for his eyes, and he recommended to all patients that they should shave their hair and take us some tobacco. And the philosophy was that if it didn't help their eyes, it would do them some good. It's just-
And there was another thing because we've all got theories on the Hand of Glory, which was a Hand of Glory, which was a hand cut from a felon, and then it was pulped, mashed into a pulp, and then candles were put on tips of each finger, lit, and it was supposed to ward off evil spirits. That's just one theory. There were other theories that it would render the burglars used to use this thing, and they sort of like render the household insensible by the fumes coming off this thing, and then they could ransack the house. Everybody else would be sort of in this mega slumber, allowing them, and all this sort of thing. But there was one recipe. I couldn't believe it. It involved horse urine, human urine, all these things chucked together, and then the hand had to be put in a church porch, and you had to stay with it all night, and you had to go through all these rituals to make the hand powerful. But I mean, it's like a whole page of things you had to do. You had to plant it in a crossroads for 2 days, dig it up, put it in, hang it in a porch, stay with it overnight. It was just unbelievable. They did all these things. They actually happened.
And
Incredible.
the hand is decaying and rotting away all the time.
Well, I mean, in some instances, which is the legend of the Haunch of Venison, where you came with us,
Right.
that hand mummified.
Right.
A lot of the legends around Salisbury stem from that hand. What was that hand? Was it cut from a chap cheating at cards? That's one theory. Was it the Hand of Glory? Was it actually put into the chimney breast to ward off witches coming down the chimney? And
That's a good one.
Lots of, in fact, in Salisbury, there's been lots of instances being shoes and things like that people put into the chimney breast to ward off, because the easiest way for a witch to get into someone's house was down the chimney.
Sure.
Like Father Christmas.
Yeah, that was the easiest way. So they put all these things into, and the most usual thing to put in were clothes and shoes from children, and the belief was that they were the most pure.
Right.
So all these artifacts were plunged into the chimney breast because they were terrified of witches, basically.
Yeah. That lasted for quite a while too. I know. Wow.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how all these things are handed down from generation to generation, and I can remember my ancestors saying that they actually learnt how to the things to eat by watching what the animals, because there are instances reported around here of people dying eating mushrooms, but they've been eating the poisonous ones. They didn't know what they were eating, and the leaves of the potato were poisonous and stuff like that. So they simply watched what the animals were eating, and then thought, well, if it's good enough for them, then we can eat it, sort of thing. But a lot of times, what a horse or a cow can eat, humans can't. So they were still poisoned.
Right.
But it's just how it's like that. The moon is another really important thing. Again, going back to my grandmother, she used to hang clothes to dry on a clothes horse. If the moon came up and shone on it, she would go absolutely berserk. Bad luck. Don't let the moon shine on damp clothes. Do not do it. Evil spirits.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, it's where the lunatic comes from.
Okay, sure.
And all those things, and lunatics.
Suddenly it's just clicked in my head.
Yeah, and some felons actually got off because when they went to court, they could say, I wasn't in charge of my senses because the moon shone on me, and that's why I killed someone. It rendered me insensible for a short time. They would get off.
Wow.
They firmly believed that the actual moon had these magical properties and all the rest of it. And when there was a prison in Salisbury quite close to where we live, and it was all demolished. And when they went into the underground cells, the prisoners had actually got their candles and burnt the ceiling, and they'd drawn moons and suns and all these different sort of like things in there for protection. So they said.
Right.
So yeah.
It's interesting how some of this connects with fact too. There is a thing called moon madness that
Yes.
happens to some people. My grandmother said that in her village in the old country, they would have people that when the moon was full, they'd be asleep. But if you tried to stop them, they get very violent. Vivian Powell's on. Hi, Vivian. And they would climb the steepest steeples and such like that. Things nobody could do, but if you woke them up, they'd fall. And my grandma wasn't really much of a kidder about this stuff. I think she would have. I don't think she was making it up. I think that's not the kind of thing she'd do to pull my leg. And it was interesting. And you talk to police or emergency rooms in this country, and first responders, and they'll tell you they have more activity on full moon nights. And
yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Well, there's a story in the book. It's quite a sad one. They were in the village pub, and this is a thing about nobody would go into the graveyard at night. That was no go. They were terrified to go because that's when all the demons and that came out. So there was this one guy, and he was bet that he wasn't brave enough to go into the graveyard when the full moon was out, and he was bet money. So he took the bet, and he went into the graveyard, but his coat got caught on a rose bush, and he thought the devil was tugging on his and he was actually found. He went mad.
Yeah.
He went absolutely round the bend. He firmly believed that this tugging on his back was the devil pulling him back.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Happy about that.
It's just, to me, they're just great stories, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they are. And I mean, I can understand. I don't go into graveyards at night either, but not because of the deads or devils. I'm afraid of who's in there living, trying to do what. So.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I mean, there's just
you what?
This sort of. I wouldn't go into a graveyard at night time. I don't think. We all went together, didn't we, when we did that filming?
Yeah, we did a filming in a graveyard.
I wouldn't do it on my own. I'd be okay with company around me, but I wouldn't go there on my own.
Well, I've gone to some with groups that are supposed to be haunted, but we've got a pioneer cemetery by just a couple miles from where I live, and it's in a wooded area, secluded, and the road to it's part of the old Oregon Trail wagon road. And I had permission to go into it at night. You have to have keys and stuff anymore. And I didn't go late because I was afraid of, what happens at midnight. Do you get the campers, or do you get the drug dealers, or what's going on? And the cemetery was great, the usual activity. And the road coming back was the scariest part. And I actually had some pretty good experience on that road, but not with the living with the dead. You get a few thousand Native Americans wanting to talk to you. But it's interesting how the things work. But anyway, I didn't want to digress from what you're talking about. Now, it looked like you had another book you were holding up, getting ready to hold up, Ruby.
Yeah.
Well, Pamela was interested in another thing, and that was symbolism, I can see as well. So I found this book, and look, it must have been only a little tiny book like that, but that's from Manchester Public Library. These things are very old, they're very rare.
Right.
And yes, what she's saying basically are all the different symbols. I found one which I thought was very interesting. Symbols for the spirit, the soul, and the mind, and the body, which she says are 4 types of truth come down to us from ancient Egyptian mysteries. But she says they've come down and appear still every year unrecognised in Christmas pantomime. But they preserve happily every detail and accessory of their sacred origin. So she says the harlequin, spirit, Columbine, the soul, the clown, the mind, and pantaloon, the body. Well, obviously, this is a very old book because in our modern pantomimes, we don't have any of these things anymore. This was actually written in 1918. But
Okay.
I think we all know what harlequin is, don't we? All know
Yes.
harlequin. Do you know Columbine? Columbine?
Not really. It reminds me of a name of an herb or St.
Dove.
Columbia.
Yeah, dove, isn't it? Columb. It's
Okay.
that's it, peace, isn't it? So the human soul, Columbine
Is
is
this sort of
a
like gone
dove.
down to tarot cards and stuff like that?
Well, it probably is in tarot cards. She says in 1918 they're characters in pantomimes, and she says they come from the Egyptian mysteries or Egyptian drawings, and that they're the same thing. I'd have to look into it more. I mean, I've only just got this book. I haven't.
Is it possible she's taken quite a lot of laudanum or something like that?
I think
is
no.
this-
I think I don't think that she was taking quite a lot of laudanum. I think that she was an interbred aristocrat.
Right. Okay.
Probably.
So,
And she's a bit away with the fairies, but she's also a very clever, intelligent, educated woman. And
Right.
so I would guess that if we were to go into this
But
a
lot of
lot
these
further,
people, like Edith Olivier,
one of her big friends,
that's someone else from around this area.
Yes.
A lady, and I mean Oliver Lodge. He had a lot to lose. He was a world-renowned, he was a world-renowned scientist.
Right.
But when his son Raymond died in the First World War, he plunged all his activities into spiritualism.
It makes sense. Spiritualism start. Oh, go.
Go on, Ruby.
Yes, because he interrupted me
sorry.
totally, and I'm just looking. I'm still looking at this. It's not that, but it is quite interesting. It's quite interesting, I think, because saying about Harlequin appears masked. You know, it's got that typical mask, isn't it? Which signifies concealed identity or invisibility, the unknown. He wears a glittering dress typical of the heavenly bow, the 7 divine spirits and their distinctive tinctures. He has a wand in his hand. It's the rod of sacred Mithras. It's the symbol of the power of will, control over matter. Yes, maybe she was on laudanum.
just a little bit.
But I'm not. I haven't studied this enough, but I would like to have a look at those Egyptian pictures again, and to have a look at really in 1918 how Columbine was actually portrayed. And of course, yes, it is the dove. It says she's beautiful, aerial, flying, obedient to him. He is the shining one, the all-pervading. She is his faithful counterpart, divine only in being his. Wow. This is like, yeah. Well, it goes on.
This is mad. I love it.
I don't know if it was a bestseller, but anyway, she's saying a pantomime is the ancient Egyptian mystery plays, and pantomime is a relic of that, and it was of astronomical origin.
Not the mummers.
I'm sorry, but is it with my historian? I think we're going to try. I find it very difficult to draw a direct line. So I'm sorry.
Before the.
I think you're right, Matt.
I'm willing to. Let's go with it though.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering, just in case English Heritage are listening to me right now.
It doesn't sound like what I saw in Egypt.
No, probably not. But anyway, I did say that Pamela is as batty as a.
Oh, it's fascinating. It really is so. And there was a whole.
I'll be reading it with great attention.
You say batty, but these people are super intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's what we're discerning and interpreting things in a way without necessarily having the full background and knowledge that archaeologists, historians, scientists have come up with since.
Right.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
this is
Makes sense.
interesting. Then it says you have 4 faces of the 4 living creatures, 4 aspects or facets of the one entity: the eagle representing spirit, the human face, soul, the lion, mind or earthly instrument, and the ox, the body. But I mean, I was very interested in symbolism, you know, in churches when I
Right.
was in France. So lion must be St. Mark.
Right.
Eagle, is it eagle? Is that St. John? I can't, John.
I
I can't remember them all because there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, isn't there?
That's
exactly, and they each have eagle and lion are 2 of them. Oh, what are
Yeah,
I don't
it
remember the other 2.
got to be Mark, and
Yeah.
yeah. Well, she says the human face, the soul, but I think it's an angel. Maybe Matthew is Matthew an angel? I don't know. The ox, the body. I don't know. It's very. It is certainly
There's a lot more
that.
research to do.
There is, well, there is a lot more. I should, but yeah, I'll come back to you another time when I've really gone into this because I'm really interested in symbolism. I mean, whether
Would
we
it be
believe, yeah,
would
whether
it
we believe in it or
oh,
not, we can see it, can't we? In old
oh,
buildings.
absolutely. And would it be possible for you to take pictures of the covers of those books to send me so I can see if I can find any of them over here?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I would
sure.
like to be able to read some of those. And
Yes, yeah. I'll send them to you, William. Don't worry.
okay, yeah, thank you. Just the pictures, and
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. And it's interesting how they put together from the different places too. Over here, spiritualism really started getting big during the Civil War because we were killing hundreds of thousands of people, and people wanted to get in touch with their long lost loved ones. And then communication, different things were getting better, and there was during the Victorian and Edwardian periods, all of this was big time here as well as over there, and what connects and doesn't connect. It's all of it together. It's just fascinating.
It actually started in New York. Um, the mass hysteria over spiritualism
The
through
Fox sisters,
Fox sisters,
yeah,
who were proven to be phonies.
right.
They were clicking their
As you
joints.
said, are they the clicking joint?
Yeah, clicking their joints.
I remember reading about that.
The thing about it was they were. It would have been taken as a complete and utter joke, except for one of the daughters started asking questions and then clicking answers, making the whole thing intelligent. The answers were intelligent. So all these people descended on, well, I think it's a place called Maine. Was it Maine? New York?
Could be, yeah. No, Maine's a state. Well, there could be a Maine, New York too, but it's also a state above New York.
I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
But one of the sisters became the actual spotlight on them was too much. They were doing all these mega tours around, and the whole of America was taken in by all the spiritualist thing.
Right.
And one of the daughters became an alcoholic, and they had to give up. But then there was 2 brothers called the Davenport Brothers who took their act and made it really super polished. Super polished. But what they did was they had like a cabinet, and inside the cabinet was 2 benches. They sat opposite each other, and they'd invite people from the audience to tie their hands together and to tie their legs to the chairs, and there'd be all these musical instruments in the cabinet with them, and then
The spirit cabinet.
the spirit cabinet. Yeah,
I'm chuffed, this. This is great.
So the spirit cabinet, and then but the mistake they made one big mistake, and that was they got a pastor to announce to the audience that this was nothing to do with trickery or illusion or anything. This was from up there. This was what you're about to see was directly from up there. This was spiritualism. And then all of a sudden, all these instruments would start playing, and then they fly out the top of the cabinet and all the rest of it. And when they opened up the cabinet, there they would be sat with their hands still tied. Everything went great, and they started becoming sensational. And then they decided to come to England on tour, which they did. And they did a little show in a village that I can't remember the name of, a town, small town in England. And sat in the audience was a chap called Masculine. And he was sat right down the end seat. And it was during the day, but they put curtains up and they blacked the hall out with these curtains.
Mm-hmm.
But they left the window open to let some air in, and the wind blew the curtain, and it let a chink of light in, enough for this chap Masculine to see down the side of the cabinet to see how they were doing the trick. And he then said, he climbed up on the stage at the end and said, I know how they do the trick. I can build that cabinet and do that trick inside a month. Give me time to build the cabinet. And he did it. He did it, and he did it so well. He actually did it better than the Davenport Brothers. He did it better, more polished, and he was so good that he became an illusionist in his own right, Masculine, and performed at the Egyptian Hall in London. He was given a residency there for about a month, 3 months, but was there 30 years.
Wow.
And he exposed all the fake spiritualists and said it's an illusion. It's not spiritualism at all. It's down to an illusion. And that's what I am. I'm an illusionist. I'm not a spiritualist. And anybody that says they are fakes and phonies. Houdini jumped on the same trip. Houdini put up the mantle and all the rest of it. The interesting thing that happened was that one of the Davenport brothers died, and it was Houdini who went to visit the grave and saw that the grave was unkept, and so he tidied the grave up and put some flowers on it. And the other Davenport brother, who was still alive, contacted Houdini, and they had a meeting and shared each other's tricks. And that's where Houdini got a lot of his illusion tricks from the remaining Davenport brother.
Wow.
So it was all, yeah. So that's how it really all came into being. But you know a lot of this already, don't you?
It's fascinating. Frog's done a really good job at explaining that, to be honest.
I found lots of
that was brilliant.
I found lots of diagrams of the spirit cabinet. Lots of diagrams. The other thing they used to do is they used to take someone from the audience to tie their hands up, but they usually chose Colin.
Like Magnificent.
It wasn't quite so strong.
They chose what? Who did?
A lady from the audience.
Oh, okay.
And then they would, as a lady was tying their hands up, they would actually try and bring their wrists as far apart as they could. So the lady did tie them up, but then they could put their hands together. They also used to put grease on their wrists, so they could put their hands together and slip the ropes off. And then when all the instruments played and they were ready to sort of like open up the cabinet, they could just slip the ropes back on their wrists again and never tied up. So that's how they did the trick. What's one of the ways they did the trick. Unfortunately for them, when they went into another location on their tour, it was a port, and a sailor jumped up and he tied their hands up with a super duper naval knot, and they had to cancel the show.
Right.
And then so at that show they started to be exposed as being fakes, and then word got round. But interestingly, the Masculine guy, the illusionist, it was actually Masculine and Cook, because Cook was the man that he was a carpenter. He made the cabinet. Masculine did the illusions, but Cook used to be his assistant in some of the tricks. But they became so successful, they actually came to Salisbury on tour.
Oh.
They were that
and
successful.
There's an advert in our local paper, Masculine and Cook.
Fantastic.
The world-renowned illusionist to royalty, and there they were in Salisbury.
Now, did either of your families see them? Because I know both of you have families that go back a long ways.
They may have done, but not that I know of, anyway.
Okay.
No, very pretty unlikely. My side of the family are all temperance movement and farmers. Going back about 4 or 5 generations, they're all farming in a very certain plot.
Right.
That's brilliant for you. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I like the spirit, because a lot of this is in supernatural sorcery as well. I didn't know anything about the early spiritualist. I've been to a spiritualist church, and it was absolutely fantastic. You know, a modern day spiritualist church.
Exactly.
It's not like we're talking about the early days, where there is like lots of trickery and lots of fakery going on.
Mm-hmm.
The actual spiritualist church of today is completely different.
It is.
The two things shouldn't be mixed up, really. So
Right. Well, in fact, Vivian, who's on, Vivian Powell, she has done work in the spiritualist church. I've got a couple other people I know that are very good mediums who started out in the spiritualist church. And I've only been once or twice to listen to friends speak and to do a little bit and maybe speak a little myself, but I haven't really participated. But it's interesting. It really is. And I think you have to be careful, even in a spiritualist church. I think it's possible to get fakes along with the real ones.
It's one thing. It's on my list to do, is to research more into the modern day spiritualist church. So that's on my list to do. But we've got so much to do that it's finding time to do it all. You know.
Exactly. And I think there are 3 or 4 different versions of it. So it might take a little extra digging into.
But you learn, don't you? You know, if you don't know about something, you learn, and it usually takes you down a different road again. It takes you down
exactly
of research. So you know, it's the main thing of enjoyment with research is finding those little gold nuggets you didn't really expect to find. It's usually something completely different to what you're researching.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah.
And you can wind up with a whole different research project.
Exactly. That's exactly right. All 3 of us have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very briefly, William, I just wanted to say, I sent you a video earlier, and I sent Frog and Ruby. You might not have had a chance to see it, but it was on the subject of things just popping up. And a colleague of mine 2 days ago, she said her mother had passed away, and over lockdown, and some unusual things have been happening around their house. And I don't know if they're called Ring doorbells in the US, but you know these doorbells which have video cameras attached to them, and the moment you press a button, it activates and it sends you a message.
Right.
So my colleague had an activation they'd had an activation to their phone, saying there was something going on at their front doorbell, and very clearly in the background you can hear, well, quite clearly in the background you can hear someone saying, "I'd like to have a chat. I'd like to have a chat." It's quite broken up, and then my colleagues, I think it's her partner, sort of says, "Sorry, you there?" And then you hear another reply, "Hello, I'm there," or "Yes." I don't know if you've had the chance to watch it, but it's quite.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw it and I looked at it, but I couldn't hear and I didn't know exactly what it was. It was just on my phone. I will look at it again.
I was going to say, I would really recommend. I'd really like you to have a little look at that, because there's also she also had an incident where, and this is from the same friend, and it happened again a couple of days within this strange thing happening at her front door. So her mother had passed away, and I think it was her daughter had. You know how a modern phone makes that noise when someone's typing? It goes tick 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 tick, and it makes that tapping noise. So she had that happening with her phone, and then she looked, and she received a notification saying that Nan is typing. But Nan was the lady who had passed away 6 months before, and the phone was, the account was closed, SIM card removed, and all that sort of thing. And there was another, and again related to the same family and the same. There was an incident where one of them was the granddaughter was in the shower, and she came out of the shower. She had sort of like a welt, sort of scratchy thing that she felt while she was in the shower, and she came out of the shower. So yeah, I think I've sent them to you. I sent them to all of you.
Right.
The
I saw it. I
Yeah,
didn't
and
like William. I didn't understand.
No, and it's I sent it kind of out of context but
yeah.
mainly reason I did that was because I wanted you to watch it, and then I didn't want to give you any of the background that I've just given you.
Right. That's it. I thought that you had just shared it from Facebook.
No, it's from a I'm not going to say close friend, but a good friend that I trust, and someone I know wouldn't just send me something like that.
Right.
They semi, not embarrassed, but semi shyly sort of approached me and said, "Matt, what do you think of this?" And then I convinced them to send it to me.
Yeah. That makes it,
and so that I could share it with you guys, because she has seen us having a chat with William before, and she thought, "Oh well, okay, so yeah." So have a look.
I will.
Have a look on your laptop with the volume up, all of you, and maybe next time we meet, we might have a chat about that.
Definitely.
That sounds really good too. That does. Yeah. We need to put down in the notes here how people can get a hold of you for the books, the tours, the talks, the everything you guys do.
So much easier than it used to be. We have got the most amazing website now, and it literally is timezoneproductions.com.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Timezoneproductions.com.
Yeah. And it's
it's our super duper. It's got all our books.
It's got everything on there, pretty much. And if it hasn't got it on there yet, it will have. And we're really, really proud of it, aren't we? So we've realised that was one of our weaknesses for sort of, and as this is a reboot, it's a relaunch for everybody, really. So yeah, that's what we've done. We have a fantastic website, timezoneproductions.com. You can talk. I'm giving a talk in a couple of weeks. Ruby's got a talk coming up as well, as has Frog. Frog's got books coming out, 2 books coming out. Ruby's got a book coming out.
And all the books that we've already published, they're all on there.
Great.
And in all the books that we've got coming out this year, we've got 3 coming out this year, they're all being announced on there. But there's films on there as well. There's talks on the Phantom Demon of Tebworth. And
there's the BBC footage from when we were on the BBC.
Yeah.
For the Telepathical case from a few years back, we got permission off the BBC to have the footage, so you can watch this on the BBC. There's our latest thing we filmed up at the lake. We did literally a couple of days ago. It's filmed in 6K, which is apparently very, very good. It looks good on the television, I'll tell you that much.
Huh. Whoops. You guys froze up. Hello?
Oh, he's back.
There you are.
Sorry.
That's okay. It was there've been a few little quick blips during the conversation, but that one was quite a good one. And Vivian's saying, "Cool, she'll take a look at the website." So
thanks, Vivian.
Yeah.
Oh, and Matt, here's a message for you from her. Can you see it?
Trying to contact him.
Oh wow! Thank you, Vivian. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
So, and Vivian's the real deal. She's good. You guys, hello? Hello?
It's not a full minute.
No, we're still here.
We're still here.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. Quickly, is there anything else that you want to put out, or maybe the networks are telling us something? I don't know. But is there anything else you want to share on this show before we end it?
I've exhausted my line of chat, I think.
No, just bright blessings. It's really nice to talk to you. It really is. And it won't be long till we can get back to some normality. And you can jump on a plane or vice versa, and you can start traveling.
Come and stay with us.
Come see us. It'd be great to
Fantastic.
have you. But yeah,
and
thank you for having us on, William.
Oh, thank you all very much, and I look forward to doing it again soon. And you all know I've got room as well. So I love it. Keep me up to date on what's happening, and we'll chat soon. And I'll get my Scrabble turn done soon, Ruby.
And I'll send you the book covers.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Take care. Cheers, William.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.